Now I am bringing up our fifth and final THRED Talk speaker. I have had the privilege of knowing Kristine Zortman since she joined the Port of Redwood City as the executive director. I live in Redwood City. I served in Redwood City. I could not be more proud of Kristine and our Port of Redwood City, and so take it away.
Thank you, Roseanne. I also echo what you've heard from all of us today. It's an honor to be here, and it's totally my pleasure. So thank you. You guys, okay, you know that I am your only impediment now to the bar, all right? I have 42 slides we're gonna go through. We're just gonna do a shot on every slide, so it gets you to the bar sooner. How about? Okay, so today we're gonna learn a little bit about the port's role in THRED. There we go. So I usually start by asking how many people in the audience know that there is a port in the peninsula? Awesome, cool. So this is just a picture reflecting some of our vessels that come into the port. So just to give you a perspective about how large our port is, or your port is, each one of these vessels is equivalent to over 3 football fields in length. It is 100 feet wide. Its dead weight, when it doesn't have cargo in it, is anywhere from 65 to 80,000 tons that's floating on the water. They can bring in anywhere from 35 to 40,000 metric tons of cargo into our port. We are 18 nautical miles from the head of San Francisco Bay. A little bit about our port. So our port is one of 11 municipal ports in the state of California. Our board is appointed by the city council. Several of them are here today. We are an intermodal port, truly intermodal port that specializes in both dry and liquid bulk. And what that means is we are not a container port like Oakland. We don't have big cranes like Oakland, or the cranes are on the vessels, and we're offloading and loading dry bulk materials from conveyors at the port. We're on 120 acres. Our infrastructure at the port is very, very high value. If you can imagine 3 football fields pulling into your wharf on a daily basis, you need to make sure that you have strong, high value infrastructure. The other thing about that is that it's very, very cost intensive and requires a lot of maintenance. So we do not get any federal funds. We barely get any state funds, if at all, to maintain our ports. That's typical for all ports in the state of California. We are very entrepreneurial. So even though we could be a taxing entity as a quasi-department of the city of Redwood City, we don't tax. We're always entrepreneurial. We run our business like a business. And we also support the city's general fund. The Port of Redwood City has 3 overarching values, and I'll get into them in a little bit. Maritime commerce is our working waterfront. Those are those big football fields that are pulling in on the side of the dock. Our waterfront and commercial recreation is what we're able to provide to the community and the residents, because the working waterfront is truly an economic engine for the region. And serving Silicon Valley and the broader peninsula region. We'll talk a little bit more about that. So when you think about freight movement on the peninsula, there's a lot of reasons why having a port on the peninsula is important. So remember I mentioned we're 18 nautical miles from the head of San Francisco Bay. It takes 3 hours for the vessel to come down to our port. Our next competitor would be the Port of Stockton. It would take anywhere from 6 to 9 hours for that vessel to get up to the Port of Stockton, and then all those materials would either need to be trucked down to the region or trucked back up to the region. So it's very, very important for the peninsula to have a reach to global markets, and we are that reach. We are conducting international trade and commerce at our port every day. It's also very important to know that the federal government realized the value of this port, and in the late 1880s, they established it as a federal channel, allowing it to be open for commerce and navigation for goods movement. So part of our maritime commerce, a port is all about freight efficiency, cost effectiveness. So as I mentioned, a vessel going up to the Port of Stockton, that would be 2,200 trucks coming back down to the region, and those 2,200 trucks would have to go back up to the Port of Stockton. So you want to keep yourself efficient, you want to keep yourself effective. You want to be able to offer intermodal opportunities, and by intermodal I mean water, rail, and roadways. They need to be easily accessible, and they need to be available to your partners. And you want to continue to be an established economic engine to the region, because ports, even though we are very heavy on the industry side, our value to the community is building advocacy through community benefits that we can deliver back. And our value to the region is making sure that the federal government judges us in a timely manner so that we can be efficient and cost effective. So just to give you a little soundbite, when I said that an average vessel coming into our port can carry anywhere from 35,000 to 45,000 metric tons of cargo, for every foot of depth that we lose in our channel, we lose 5,500 tons of cargo. So when you lose 9 feet, that means you see a lot more barges. That means you have a lot of more intrinsic impacts to the environment, and you're not being cost effective and efficient. We also want to make sure that we're doing things that can weather economic downturns. And that's, again, to be able to continue to give back to the community. So in 2020, our board adopted its first ever strategic vision. And it really looked at creating, diversifying our real estate portfolio as well as our cargo portfolio to weather those economic downturns. It also really looked at how we can be better with our trade partners. And again, when you think about trade partners, you have to realize that everything that touches a piece of cargo or a vessel that's coming in has a price to it. So you've got your beneficial cargo owners, you've got your stevedores, you've got your shippers, you've got your agents, you've got the union, you've got the railroad, you've got security, and the list goes on and on. So you continue to want to make sure that what you're offering is effective and efficient for the broader community. On the commercial rec, again, this is where I said we're able to give back to the community. The 2020 vision looked at creating destination type uses at our port, and they're in areas which make a lot of sense. So we have a 185 slip municipal marina. That's where we host a lot of our concerts. We host our events, our annual drone show. We also host Port Fest. We have a lot of things going on down there. In our municipal marina, we have our youth sailing entities. We have Peninsula Youth Sailing. Our yacht club has a lot of youth sailings. We have the Sea Scouts. So we really try and make sure that we're building up the youth in the community and also demonstrating to the youth that this is an opportunity for them to think about a new sector that they can put a career in. They don't have to go to college. They can still earn a high-paying job without going to college. And so keeping us effective and efficient and an economic engine continues to be able to offer that to the community. And on the Serving Silicon Valley side, so we are going to have a ferry. It has been years and years in the making. We are now in the CEQA process for that. We anticipate that the ferry could be coming online in conjunction with our partner agency. We understand in maybe a 26 timeframe. Of course, that assumes we have no legal challenges in our CEQA documents. To kick that off this summer, along with the Water Emergency Transportation Authority, we are going to be hosting several pilot ferry trips from the Port of Redwood City to select Giants games, and that schedule is going to be coming out soon, so you'll be able to find tickets on the WIDA website as well as look at the schedule of events that we have going on there. The other thing that's important to us is our environmental stewardship in serving Silicon Valley. So we look at nature-based solutions, obviously, for sea level rise because we are so vulnerable. We're launching a living shoreline pilot program this year that we're hopeful is going to be successful, but then what it's going to allow our board to do is set policy decisions moving forward with that are very nature-based driven. We also believe that beneficial reuse of dredge materials is important. There is a value to the mud when the Corps is out there dredging the mud. So rather than taking it 50 miles offshore, in addition to the 18 miles they got to get up there. Let's keep it in the region and let's start to use it for more beneficial resiliency efforts around the region for sea level rise. And we're also home to the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary. So we have a lot going on here that really makes us important to the Silicon Valley region. One of our other values, although it's not one of our prime core values, but it should be, is our emergency preparedness. So in 2017, FEMA designated us a federal staging area, and that's because of an investment that we made, again, into that infrastructure, over $20 million into one of our wharfs with dredging. We don't get any money from FEMA for that. They just give us this honor, and we're required then to make sure that we can facilitate what we need to, should there ever be a catastrophic event. You guys should be very proud of this port, though, because your port is the first port in the entire San Francisco Bay Area that made this kind of investment into its infrastructure, recognizing 3 to 5 feet of sea level rise, as well as recognizing the fact that we live in a very vulnerable earthquake region. So we were the first one out of Oakland, not San Francisco, none of the others, it was us. So you should be proud of that. So then, to wrap this up, before we all go to the bar, I thought about, let's think about how the port really weaves into the whole THRED thing. So we've obviously got the transportation element, we've got the regionalism, we've got the resiliency, we've got housing. Our port is feeding the raw construction materials that is building the housing and the infrastructure for this region. We've got emergency preparedness. We have the economic engine. We have job diversity because we have a lot of high-paying jobs out there, skilled labor jobs. And we also have destination as part of D. And so that concludes my presentation today. Just a few more pictures for you all.